we had a wonderful trip that I just wanted to give you an overview of what that looked like, and also to say thank you for the many ways that you supported this trip. There were 27 of us that went down to Montgomery, Alabama. We rented a charter bus, and so we had lots of time together on the way down to really get to know each other. We had 3 online meetings to prepare ourselves for the journey, not only to get to know each other, but also to be able to get in the headspace of being in Montgomery and the things that we would do. So we traveled on Tuesday all day, and then on Wednesday morning we got up, and every morning we had a time of meditation, of preparation, of setting intentions for the day. And Reverend Tracy Chambers was also co-leading the trip with me. She's the pastor at Northern Hills United Methodist and a sister congregation, and she's also an African American pastor, and so it was great to be with her. And in the midst of planning, Dr. Holly McGee, who's a history professor at UC, also jumped on board and helped to lead the trip and set context for us in the midst of that. So on Wednesday morning, we went to the Rosa Parks Museum that is in Montgomery, and we spent the morning there going through the museum and experiencing that piece of history. And then on Wednesday afternoon, we went to the Sculpture Park, which is part of the Legacy Museum with Equal Justice Initiative, and they have 3 sites. So on Thursday, we went to their museum that walks you through the history of racism in our country in 4 different parts. And that was a very well done museum, and also a very heavy history to walk through in one time. And some of us had a hard time getting through the whole thing in 4 hours. And I hope to go back to see the parts that I just didn't have the time or the emotional bandwidth to continue on. And then that afternoon, we went to the Peace and Justice Museum site, and some of you may know it as the Lynching Museum. And then when we were finished there, we met with some staff with the Equal Justice Initiative to hear more about their work and what they're doing. So then that was Thursday, and then on Friday, we sort of did a self-guided tour through the city. And so we went to the church where Martin Luther King Jr. was the pastor. We did some sightseeing around the Capitol, which is really near there, where some historical things happened in Montgomery. And if you don't know that, I encourage you to look that up. You can do a Google search really easily. And then we also went to the Baptist church where they met after the first day of the Montgomery bus boycott. And we hadn't planned on necessarily touring it, but when they found out that we were there, they welcomed us in. They showed us amazing hospitality, and they gave us some history and showed us some videos. And so it was just this hidden gem of our trip that was a highlight. So, and then every evening or the next morning, depending on the heaviness of the day, we gathered and unpacked our day and talked about where we had experienced God, where we had just had moments of epiphany or aha, and just shared transparently with each other. And then we spent Saturday, well, first we sat in the parking lot at the hotel while we waited for the threat of tornadoes to go through before we started on our journey back, and had a wonderful time again fellowshipping with each other while we were trapped on the bus. So it was a wonderful experience, and each of these folks are going to share the significance of the trip, but I wanted to set that context for you.
Hi, my name is Emily. My wife and I have been members here for a while now, and I also work with the EDGE community, which is the ministry partner with the Wesley Foundation. Thank you all again for your gifts for us to be able to have the gift of going on this trip. I just wanted to share how once your eyes are opened, they can't be closed again. And so I encourage you, if you've not heard of the Equal Justice Initiative, to check out their website, EJI.org. And through that website, you can get access to Brian Stevens' documentaries for free, or you can come visit me at the Clifton Library where I have them on display this month. And you can get the DVD. And if you have a DVD player, that's great. And I just encourage you to learn about some of these things, think about the ways that things that people want to act like are new happening in our society today, maybe even something as simple as an alternative Super Bowl halftime show, are rooted in the racism that has been sewn into the history of this country in ways that we refuse to talk about.
Hi, I'm Kristen Barrett. My wife Valerie and I have been members of Clifton here since last year, and Becky reached out to us to invite us both on the trip to Montgomery. And prior to that, I don't think Alabama was a place that that was a destination for me or for either of us. I was able to go on the trip, though. The fact that Becky reached out made me think, well, maybe this is a sign, and I am super glad that I did. Really learned a lot from the sites that we visited that Becky described, and I think one thing that I took away was how much I thought I knew going into it, and then how much I actually didn't know, how much I learned or unlearned by finding so much out about American history that maybe wasn't quite how I had been taught. So that was really valuable. And then just the friendships that I think were made on this trip, and I really came to adore everybody who went on the trip. So that was a really great part of it too. It was kind of a safe space where we could laugh or cry or, process our feelings together.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Miles. I'm a fourth-year nursing student at UC, and I'm also a Wesley student leader. I really appreciated going on this trip. It was fairly inexpensive for a student, and I got to experience things that I did not expect I was going to. The EJI, like Equal Justice Initiative, shares the perspective of Black people in America from a very first-person narrative point of view, and the continuation of like the racist history of the country through the present day was very striking to me, and kind of put a perspective on just the politics of our world today and how that correlates with what I want to go into, which is nursing, obviously, and how that is going to impact like the perspective I have on treating people with grace and understanding that not everybody is born equally in a country that doesn't treat everybody the same. So yeah, I appreciate y'all's support, and
I'm Evelyn. I'm a second-year architecture student and also student leader at Wesley. Going on this trip was a really interesting experience to me. It taught me a lot about information and the way it kind of shapes how I see the world. Because throughout these different museum exhibits and such, there was a lot of newspapers, a lot of other things detailing the events, written not just from not from a Black perspective, but from a white perspective. And like seeing that, I saw the same lines that I've heard from people nowadays that kind of shook me a little bit, that like how deep it actually was, because I'd never really considered it before, because for a lot of my life I grew up in a pretty white bubble, so it wasn't, as far as I was aware, affecting me, So it was very interesting to like see where the stories I had heard came from and how those views still continue, maybe changed words a little bit, but the same narrative is kind of being applied, and that was eye-opening for me in a lot of ways.
I'm Charlie. I'm in my last year at UC for criminal justice with a psychology minor. I'm not a student leader at Wesley, just a student. I learned a lot from this trip. Some things that stand out. it didn't just go over, like, what we've learned was not just about people of color or people who are black. We also learned about just the history of the U.S. and how we started as a place of stolen land, especially in the sculpture park. It went over Native Americans, indigenous people, which was very eye-opening to me with some of the stuff that they went through that we learned about at that park. Something else that we did, we had questions that we were asked each day about what we should keep an eye out for, and one question was about where we see like church and faith in these throughout the museums. And one thing I took away was just how anything can be twisted. There was a lot of faith that was taken. That was something that a lot of these people of color was the last thing that they could hold on to. And even in their last moments, with especially lynchings, they would often cry out to God. But I also saw faith in church used to twist and condemn people, or there was someone in a jury, in these all-white juries. I would love the quote. Evelyn apparently has the quote. Yep, here it is. After studying the Bible, I have wondered if black people even have souls. And that was 2018, apparently. So it was a lot, but it was eye-opening in just how different things play parts in these, good and bad. And I was glad to be part of some of the good. Also, as has been said, community is something I've learned about, and learning from different generations that have been on the trip was eye-opening, talking to each other. But it was just a great experience.
Hi, my name is Mary. I am Charlie's mom, and when I go to church, I consider this my church family. I struggle with church, and it's funny that Charlie brought that up. I went on this trip because my son invited me. I didn't even know what the trip was. I am not going to lie, and I was unemployed. Couldn't go on a trip for the amount of money that it cost for me anywhere else. So thank you so much for giving to that. I wouldn't have been able to go. By the time the trip came, I had a job, yay, and got off, yay. I'm really happy I did. I have been to the Wesley House before, numerous times, but going on this trip, life-changing, life-changing. I think I know my children, and those of you that are parents or even, have relationships with great kids that you really care for, you worry about certain kids. You worry about, how they're going to be treated. And I do that with two of my boys. And I am never going to worry about Charlie again, seeing him on that trip. I'm not. The students at the Wesley House came together so well on that trip to help each other out, help us adults out. I did not know what that trip was going to be about. And Pastor Becky, every single morning gave everybody a sticker. It was a heart. I didn't get mine first because I was late to the first meeting. I know everybody who knows me is very shocked. But when I got that sticker, I felt so proud. And she would say something different every single morning. And I know these students know what that is, but I don't remember it. But I just remember that it started with beloved, right? Every single day. I have those stickers and they're in my notebook. And I will keep them. And my notebook is almost the same that Evelyn's is. Every single day we went to a different place. Even just the meetings that we had with the students, I would write down things that people would say. I read those back in times of struggle. It was amazing to be on that journey. It was amazing to see everything. I know that when Charlie spoke of church, the day that we learned about all the churches in the past and what their parts were in the lynchings and in the selling of the slaveries at the auction, we went to the place where families were torn apart at auction sellings. And I was one of the people that saw the church and all the evil. And I was so blessed and so lucky to see my friends that are a huge part of Clifton United Methodist say they saw the church and all the loving community that were there to help everybody. So it is so great to be a part of Clifton United Methodist and the Wesley House. And if you have not given to the Wesley House or been a part of the Wesley House on Tuesdays and Sunday dinners, I definitely invite you to do that, because it is amazing to just sit and talk with the students while they eat and share a meal and listen to their stories. Because I did that with my sister-in-law who lives in Dayton before this trip came up. And if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have gone on this trip. So the big thing for me is I believe in community, I always have, but it was amazing to be a part of this community. And there were moments where I literally broke down through museums, and Pastor Becky and Pastor Tracy would see it. They would come over, they would hold my hand. It was amazing. And there was one place, because I am 55 and I can no longer hear little things, I couldn't hear what people were saying, a part of the museum. It was one of the last days, and we were literally in the building where people would be held in pens, and they were sharing their stories, and I couldn't hear it. I just couldn't. And I was a little freaking out, and I went to Pastor Tracy, and I'm like, I can't hear their stories. I kept hearing them in my own heart. I see you, I hear you, I'm sorry. The whole trip, and I couldn't hear it. So she brought me to this room where they were singing, and these two ladies sang, and one lady saying, "Dear God, be with me, be by my side. Jesus, be by my side." And the other lady said, "Jesus, why? Just take my life. Why are you doing this?" And I saw Charlie as I was in that room with Pastor Tracy, and he looked, and I was just bawling, and he just gave me a little hand, and I could tell he was giving me some of his strength, and amazing to be a part of that. Music is what speaks to me. I hear things through music. I love to dance. I love to sing. And just that was like a moment where I felt like I couldn't hear, but I heard so much more. So I definitely recommend the trip, and I definitely thank you for allowing us to go on that.
Hey, I'm Steve DePoe. I'm a member here at Clifton. We often hear that it's important to remember our history. History's being erased, and a lot of this trip was history, of course. But it was geography also, really, really interesting. For example, a lot of us were saying, how many more miles to Buc-ee's? Where's the Buc-ee's? The geography of the city, the last day we had this sightseeing that we kind of self-guided, and there was this road, at the base of it was kind of a low spot, and you can see the state capitol in the distance, sort of one of the main thoroughfares of this town. And at the base was, I think, a fountain right now, but that at one point was where the enslaved persons were auctioned off. Montgomery was a center point the last 40 or 50 years of slavery in the United States for the internal slave trade that happened within the United States. So you go from there kind of looking up the hill to the state capitol. That state capitol building was unbelievable. A lot of history there. That's where the first Confederate Congress met. That's where Jefferson Davis was inaugurated. But 2 blocks away on that same street was Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. That was the first church Martin Luther King was appointed to. And it just blew me away that that's only 2 blocks from the state capitol. They were so close together, so much history made there. But the geography of these towns, the way they're laid out, you can see sort of the segregation that was present, and now a lot has changed. So visit these towns. Go on this pilgrimage. It's not that far. You can stop at Buc-ee's if you want to, but it is worth your time. So,
I'm Lisa Kerwin, and I just want to say I'm just extremely grateful for this trip. I've been wanting to do this for several years now, and this came up and was inexpensive for a non-student to go. And as I'm getting older, I thought I'd better go now. And it exceeded all expectations. I am still processing a lot of it, reflecting on statements or phrases like, slavery has not ended, it is evolved. And theories of weathering and vigilance, and not vigilance necessarily in the positive sense. And we'll continue to reflect on these things in my upcoming class with others, so just a plug for the class. And then just the beauty of the art that expressed such suffering that human beings endured, just really, it's just in my heart. It was unbelievable, the beauty and the art, and that one man is, basically one man is responsible for all this for us to see. So that, and just one last little story, is the trip that we got to see of the town and the unexpected little museum where Martin Luther King gave his first national speech. The pastor of the church that now owns this museum, when he heard we were there, he ran over to be with us. And he has been a pastor of this Baptist church for over 40 years, and he addressed us and told us stories as if it happened yesterday. His passion was still that high, and he was 80-something years old, and so that was kind of an incredible gift as well. But please do take this trip. It was really awesome.
Speaking of that church, I did want to say how when we got to the museum, it wasn't planned, so it wasn't paid for. And the adults quickly came together to pay for us students, the seasoned adults, came together to... Evelyn said that, not me. Apparently that's Becky's words. But Lisa paid for me and Evelyn, and I was just very thankful for that sense of community as well.
Yes, I did use the word seasoned adults because the college students are adults. And so I didn't want them to feel that they were youth or children or whatever. And so it was a way of designating the young adults and the seasoned adults. And I will share with you that the phrase that struck me from Brian Stevenson was that we live in a post-genocide society. And that I even put that phrase in my phone notes so that I could continue to resonate and contemplate what does that mean, especially as I'm living my life in this society. So again, thank you. If this seems intriguing for you, this trip will be on a rotation that Wesley will be doing every couple of years. And so whether you want to go on your own, or if you want to go in a community, as these folks have experienced, we will be doing that again. We do have a few more minutes, so I don't know if anyone has any questions that you would like to ask. You just got a snippet of it, but maybe something was stirring in you and you want to ask the team a question. And if you don't, that's okay too. Yeah, in the back, Susan.
Were you able to make it to Chris's hot dog?
Okay, if anybody knows the history, Chris's Hot Dog is a very famous place in Montgomery, and we did call in an attempt to go and have food there. They had been closed for renovations for a period, and they were trying to get their feet back under them after those renovations, and they said they could not accommodate a group our size. And so to honor that request and not make their life more stressful, we said we would do that the next time. But yeah, I'm glad that you know that history. There's a lot of famous people that have eaten at Chris's Hot Dog, so we did try. Any other questions along the way? Yeah, Shirley. During the civil rights movement, is that what you mean? There were some does somebody want to address that?
I'll just share something about children that has really just blown my mind. Did you know that we were executing 13-year-olds even in 2008, is that correct? 2008, we were executing 13-year-olds, and not just one.
And by that it was African American children primarily, right? So.
Yeah, and I did want to tell you that throughout all the museums, like depending upon what museum we were at, the Rosa Parks Museum was the first one we went to, and they did actually talk about what it was like to be children. They did talk about like the different conversations they had to have, and then there were some talk about how they couldn't, like there was a white gentleman that he was talking about how he snuck a sip from the colored water fountain just to see like why their water was so different, and he was amazed that it tasted the same. So like there were stories like that throughout all the different museums, but to me like it was amazing to see it through the eyes of the children that were there, and some of them were them telling it when they were like, you know, grandparents, and they were recalling their stories. So they did.
Thank you. That was a great question. I don't want to push Pastor Robert's need to be prepared for the next service. So these folks will be in the back if you have additional questions that you want to ask them. And this will be on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. So if some people came in late and want to hear the whole of our report back, you can check our YouTube channel. So thank you very much for spending the time to hear about our trip.